The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. Woo! We got ourselves a show this week. A show is going to be had. It's going to be quite showy. Let us bring in our co-host this week. That wasn't my best intro. I'll admit that right now. Elisa Rock Talk, how you doing?
I'm okay.
This is what happens when I don't kind of work out the first few sentences before the theme song starts, but that's all right. We're shaking it off. I'm very happy to see you. How are you? How is Texas, by the way? Texas seems to be going through some things.
When is it not? When is it not? We had a bit of a winter freeze last week. The roads turned into hockey rinks, and we all stayed inside, hopefully, for the most part. I got the chance to kind of rearrange the studio in here with our not going outness last week, which has been really, really nice. Upgrades to the setup and everything. For those watching on
feng
Twitch.
shuiing happening there behind you. I thought maybe you were in a different room. You just kind of moved some things around.
No. So we moved we kind of made a recording booth out of literally a couple of pieces of foam and a moving blanket that was like draped on a mic stand for sound baffling, but we've since upgraded the microphone and moved things over to my desk, so it's actually a lot easier with my keyboard and synth setup and everything. I have the microphone set up there, so I can do anything from record VO to record vocals on a Crimson Echoes project.
So that's your setup for VO. Like, you're able to do it just in that room with just really good mic and the right positioning. You can record the really cool VO stuff that you've recorded.
Yep, absolutely. The SM7B is really good. I hear that, my voice tends to be a little bit lower, a little bit heavier, and that tends to lift things up a bit. It also is a deader microphone than the one we've been using, which is great when it, comes to things like the cat running around in the background and all sorts of other things. It's actually a lot easier because we don't have to do a lot of treatment or, unplugging a bunch of things that are humming around the apartment on the front end. You could just kind of just set up and go. So that's really nice.
I feel like we're seeing that innovation lately in VO because I've heard other voiceover artists talk about this, where to get the sound you wanted to get, it used to be about the things around you. And now recently it's more about the thing you're talking into, and the right kind of mic can mimic the kind of sound you would want that you otherwise get from like having to outfit your space with all kinds of insulation and things like that.
Yeah, and absolutely. But really it is to some extent still about everything around you, but it's also realizing that like it doesn't take as much as you think. Like, we were getting some reflections off of the back wall, but as soon as Evan at Evan Lamb Guitar hung up his guitar cases along the wall, that just gave like exactly enough sort of diffusion to kind of like deaden the room even more. I even joked about cutting up some pool noodles and like putting them up on the ceiling to kind of add a little bit more. But like, if you can deaden the room enough through a combination, I mean, I was using a moving blanket before and I got booked on a moving blanket behind me, so you don't. There is also like definitely some discourse going around Twitter around the same time about like literally microphones and like whether USB or XLR microphones are better for streamers or content creators. I'm an XLR nerd because we're musicians and we just have XLRs all day, every day. USB microphones have gotten a lot better, but really for me, it's all about like, what's the thing that works and gets you there, bare minimum, and is the thing that you're going to want to use consistently and actually help you create. And it doesn't really matter about like how fancy the tech is.
And maybe this is just kind of like a placebo psychosomatic thing, but like something about plugging a real chunky XLR cable in a big chunky hole makes it seem like that what you're doing is like a real sophisticated kind of project.
Yeah. Like it doesn't work unless you give yourself the blood blister.
That's right.
Of tightening a mic stand or, dropping the end on a floor and just absolutely shattering your eardrum with how loud that is. It's a different experience. It's a different experience.
We got a full agenda this
do.
hour, Elisa. It is jam-packed. We have no time for frivolousness. All right, we have to talk about the Grammys. We have to talk about Nintendo Direct. We got the AI Overlords tip of the week.
Oh, yes.
We have entertainment law news. And our guest this week, holy mackerel, we are going to be joined in the second segment by Harvard law professor Alan Jenkins and New York Times bestselling author Gan Galan. And I know you might be thinking to yourself, what is a law professor and a New York Times bestselling author doing on our silly little program? And what are they doing together? Because they seem like they'd run in different circles. Well, Professor Jenkins and Gan Galan collaborated together on a graphic novel. I mean, how cool is that? They collaborated on a graphic novel called 1/6. It is a speculative fiction graphic novel about what would have happened if the January 6th attacks succeeded for the insurrectionists. The spiciest of spicy. And I'm excited to talk to Professor Jenkins in particular because I've never met any law professors that make graphic novels. The only law professors I have met ruin your mid-20s and put you in counseling for anxiety. So this is going to be a welcome change of pace for me. I see Professor Jenkins laughing at that in the green room. But so I'm intrigued. I want to know like how these two people got connected. Why are they making graphic novels together?
Yeah.
And by the way, give it like a real break the business tie, you want to know how this got funded? Kickstarter. So they're really speaking to our audience, and we're going to have a lot of great questions for them. That comes up in the next segment. First of all, before we even bring them in, we have a lot of other sophisticated topics that are certainly worthy of sharing a show with a Harvard law professor and a New York Times bestselling author. We got to talk about the Grammys.
Hey.
Actually, wait, no. But first, I can't believe I almost insulted the AI overlords by skipping past them.
Do not do that. Twitter was already down for a half second. We cannot be messing with any more technology.
Twitter did have an issue today. Okay. All right, Lauren, let's get us into it. AI overlords tip of the week.
AI overlord tip of the week. AI overlord tip of the week. AI overlord tip of the week. AI overlord tip of the week.
For those new to the programming, with this, we ask ChatGPT to give us a tip about how indie artists can move their careers forward. And let me tell you, ChatGPT doesn't miss. Every single one of the pieces of advice it has given has been a banger. And so we're going to stick with our AI overlord on this until they deliver an L, which, of course, our AI overlord never does. Here's our AI overlord tip of the week this week. Actively engage with your audience and foster a sense of community around your art. This can be done by responding to comments and questions on social media, hosting live Q&A sessions, or starting a discussion group related to the things you create. Building a strong community can not only help you retain your current fans, but it can also attract new fans who are looking for a sense of belonging and connection. Additionally, a supportive community can provide you with valuable feedback and help you grow as a creator. So don't be afraid to reach out and connect with your people. I feel like, Elisa, the AI overlord is speaking to you this week because I think you're really great at this.
That is industry best practices vis-a-vis community management and community building. It is all about engagement and the quality of the engagement. People don't want to see you just posting your tour announcements and just posting promo all the time and just posting stuff into the ether. People want to have a parasocial, a relationship with their artists nowadays, and also feel like they have a place where they can meet other like-minded folks. That's why things like Discord have been so instrumental in not just artists but also other content creators like streamers, etc. Just having a main hub for people that are fans of you to communicate with each other and build that sense of belonging. I dig it. Dang it. Got one right.
And we often talk about social media being a two-way street, right? You don't want to just treat it as something where you're shouting to your fans and not listening to them. But as you noted, perhaps the best way to use social media as a creator is not just to treat it as much like a two-way street as almost like a 15-car pileup where you're talking to them, they're talking to you, they're talking to each other. A community's being built around their mutual love of the stuff that you're creating. And that's really kind of, from what I'm hearing from you, the best version of what our AI overlord is talking about right here.
Yeah, like my favorite thing is when I'm seeing discussions in the Discord that I myself did not initiate at all.
Ooh.
And it's people sharing their pets or people being like, oh, here's an awesome new song I heard the other day, because we have a music exchange channel in the Discord. Someone recently adopted new kittens, so our Mosh Pets channel has gotten absolutely flooded with adorable cat pictures, and just feeling as a creator, as somebody who definitely has, since the days of AOL chat rooms, have
People
loved the
connection.
kind of chat rooms and MMOs, like the sense of community that you feel across a shared interest. It makes me feel really, really happy that I can provide a safe space for people to share their lives with other folks. I don't know, feels really warm and fuzzy.
I dig that. And I'm a little scared. I'm getting increasingly scared of our AI overlord here, because not only I feel like it's learning, because not only is our AI overlord giving us really great advice every week, but I feel like it's starting to tailor the advice to the co-hosts.
Oh,
Last week, Zach Sloan was the co-host, and the AI overlord just happened to have a great piece of advice about music production. Now you're here, and it's, how about a piece of advice about community management to the community management professional? This is scaring me a little bit.
I don't know.
A little bit.
It's a little creepy. As my cat walks across the screen. Hopefully she doesn't turn the computer off. She's been known to do that.
Elisa, did you happen to catch the Gramophone Awards on Sunday night?
Yes.
Yes.
I am going to go ahead and just throw it out there. That may have been one of the best Grammy telecasts that I've seen in recent memory.
Really?
Yeah.
What did it for you? I mean, there were a few pretty notable performances, but what was the one where you just went, I feel like I'm watching one of the best telecasts we've seen in a while?
It started with a strong sense of personal bias, because Bad Bunny opened the show, and I'm Puerto Rican. But not only did Bad Bunny open the show, but he brought in dancers with like typical dress, like bomba dancers and pleneros, and it's like typical dress and the giant paper mache heads that are popular in a lot of our festivities. It was like I felt super seen. There was literally, and I couldn't find it in time for the show, but there's literally a picture of me as a kid wearing some of the same outfits that some of the dancers were wearing in that opening number, and I was like, just like the sense of national pride was so good, and the captions just being like singing in non-English. It felt like a very, very like powerful statement to open the show. And then the hip hop tribute, I almost cried at just like how like good and like encompassing it was. And like every single one of those folks that came up on the stage still has it.
Oh my God. That was my thought when I saw Queen Latifah. I was like, not only was Queen Latifah good, she was in mid-season form. Like Queen Latifah could go on a 30-city tour tomorrow.
Plenty of
Has not lost a step.
And then like E40 was out there doing blow the whistle, and like Busta showed up and
Rhymes.
just
Oh my God.
and I was like, I am losing my mind right now. It was so good. I feel like the In Memoriam was also like really, really tasteful. Mary J. Blige just like understood the assignment and had her own amazing performance. Like it, like all of Lizzo.
Lizzo.
It was great. The only complaint that I have is just like I feel really, really bad about the person who like pitched, fielded, and eventually executed that like album of the year focus group segment.
You didn't like that?
I was like, we could have done without that. Maybe had another performance. I don't know.
Or
maybe,
get the
like,
or
show
get
a
the
little bit
Grammys
more
under
love,
3
like-
hours.
Yeah, like cut that and maybe like do a little in the same way that they have performances of the songs nominated for Song of the Year at like the Oscars or whatever. It
Yeah.
would be really awesome to have like a piece about each Best New Artist nominee as like a way of literal introduction to the rest of the world, and maybe the Grammys performing some sort of a service in your estimation, telling us who these people are.
I got a lot of thoughts. I got dare I say I got all the thoughts
I'm
about
sure.
this year's slate of nominees
I
for
haven't
Best
even
New
gotten to the
Artist.
awards. I haven't even gotten to the awards part.
I mean, just I got to talk about this because this bothered me so bad. I pride myself, even as I'm getting older, on being somebody who tries to keep up on the music industry. I work in this industry. I should know what's going on. And I have a particular love for the Grammys. Ever since we've known each other, like in high school, I was hosting like the Grammy pool.
Like legal backdoor Grammy betting.
Oh my God. I loved this stuff. And so I can't tell you how much it broke my heart and made me the Steve Buscemi skateboard meme that I looked at this year's list of the Best New Artist nominees. I did not recognize a single name with the exception of Måneskin, and I only knew them because of Eurovision.
Because of Eurovision, yeah.
Which, by the way, like, how can you still be Best New Artist when this band won Eurovision like 2 or 3 years ago? But, you know, whatever. That's a whole other thing. But like this, it broke my heart. I didn't recognize a single name, and it seemed like the Recording Academy, to your point, didn't recognize any of these people either because none of them were featured in the telecast. The first time we heard any of the names of these nominees, Anita, Omar Apollo, Domi and JD Beck, was when they actually announced the category 3 hours into the show.
And it as somebody who does like recognize some of those names on the Best
We
New Artist
get it.
list,
You're still
thankfully,
cool.
It's not even that I'm still cool. It's that like I am 37 years old. I am doing a mad scramble to figure out where the heck all of the new music is and trying to like follow whoever I can. At this point, I have literally outsourced my music taste to Anthony Fantano, the needle drop. Because like it's really difficult with the output, just the sheer fire hose of things being released every week. And also who the hell listens to terrestrial radio anymore? A, B. And it ends up, you know, a lot of my music playlist ends up just being, you know, the same shuffled, you know, Counting Crows and No Doubt albums like most of the time. So like I actually have to like, it's like pulling teeth. But eventually I don't know how it was that I found Anthony Fantano, but he has these like New Music Friday streams where he literally outsources to his community, hey, what dropped that you want us to listen to? And then he hosts listening parties. And that's literally how I just drink from his like Twitch fire hose and then just add things to my library that I like. And that's how I kept current. Domi and JD Beck are also locals here to Dallas. And so like we've had like some experience checking them out earlier, but like, and also Mooney Long is I forget how I found them, but their song Hours and Hours is incredibly good. But yeah, it's like I have to do it, and it's like different corners of TikTok, following a bunch of music heads, but also a lot of folks that might be posting about music that I wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards either. It's like a very concerted effort to be like, damn it, I am going to be like like just a ferret, just like, I don't know, just trying to find all of the nooks and crannies of where all the new music lives.
I guess that's the difference between your 20s and your 30s in terms of music discovery. In your 20s and your teens, I guess, knowing what is new and hip in music is a passive experience. It just
We're not
comes to
being
you.
pandered to anymore, baby.
Yeah. By the time you hit your 30s, you have to actively find it. It's homework for you to know who Wet Leg is and who Muni Long is. And it's just so frustrating to me. But again, like, part of the blame lies with the Academy here, because they did nothing to make any of us aware of who any of these people are, when the whole point of elevating Best New Artist to being one of the big 4 Grammy categories is they're trying to get us interested in the next generation. But it's hard to be when even the Academy doesn't seem particularly interested in the next generation.
I'm not even going to talk about that album of the year voting, man.
Oh my God. So, I mean, like, help me reconcile this, literal doctor of pop culture, okay?
Literal Dr. Melendez.
On one hand, I want to be extraordinarily happy for Beyonce, who is now our most decorated Grammy winner and absolutely deserves it, and deserves like a few more that she didn't win. And
Absolutely.
This is wonderful for her. And she still wound up stealing the show despite the fact that she wasn't there for the first half of it.
Yeah.
So, but how do I reconcile like the fact that I want to be happy for her and I want the media to be happy for her and to celebrate her, but I'm still being confronted with stories where we don't get to celebrate her fully because we also have to be outraged by the fact that among the dump truck full of Grammys that she's won, none of them as of yet have been Album of the Year.
It's bananas. It's absolutely bananas. I don't know if it's a vote splitting thing, if I don't know the criteria. It would be interesting for me, and if we want to sort of put like sociology hat on, it would be interesting for me to see a breakdown of the demographics of the Academy as a whole and the demographics of the people who actually voted.
No.
I'm not a voting member. I do not have a vote. But I would be interested in seeing like what the actual like voting process is, what the criteria is as delivered to these folks in order to make proper decisions, etc. I gotta say, Harry's House, good production.
Yeah.
Renaissance. And then Renaissance. Renaissance. It sucks because it's like what's going to end up happening is what's going to end up happening to folks like probably like what maybe ended up happening to like either like Reba, who I think won Song of the Year or whatever. It's like she's going to get the Album of the Year Grammy for something that maybe didn't necessarily deserve it. Like
she's gonna win it for like her
Oscar.
4th best album.
Yeah, like that late Oscar that they give people when they're like, "Oh, okay," like she's gonna get that, and it's like, ugh, like
she's gonna get the Randy Newman Oscar.
They're gonna name an honorary Grammy after her, and then that's how she gets.
But
I don't know.
I mean, but I just want to be happy for her without also having to read in the same issue of Billboard the outrage article, like the one that's just generating clicks and generating controversy. Even though, like, yeah, she should have probably won multiple albums of the year by now. But like, can we have that outrage tomorrow and today celebrate the most decorated Grammy winner ever?
No, it was especially like salient. I think I sent this in our group chat when it was just like her nominations and then every single person that won, and literally the time before that when Adele won, she literally said, "This is you. I don't. This is yours."
That was the best
Beyonce, this
speech
is
ever.
And that was the time this is what
She
happens.
was just like apologizing to Beyonce.
This is what happens when you don't listen to Adele.
Mm.
This is what happens when you don't listen to Adele. And also Lizzo and Adele should just like just be at all award shows. Just get them a table at every award show. That's my Grammy chat.
All right. We got 5 minutes before we bring in Alan Jenkins and Gon Galan here. And we probably should do at least one entertainment law thing before we do. I think it's like some kind of obligation we have in a contract somewhere. So I'm going to do something with you, Elisa, that we've done with a few co-hosts now. And I'll tell you, so far, I haven't gotten the result I've wanted here. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to propose to you 2 different entertainment law stories.
Okay.
You are then going to select the story that we cover this week. All right, and it'll be pretty clear from my proposal that one of them is one I've been trying to talk about for several weeks now. And I think it's a really good story that's going to have a lot of great insight for indie creators and is a meaty discussion. And the second one is just not. And like, just to F with me, every co-host has picked the not story. So here are the 2 stories, okay?
Oh boy.
Do you want to hear a sordid, torrid tale of the underbelly of the Miami music industry featuring, and I'm really going to hook you in with this, a Puerto Rican hip hop artist having a horrific feud with their manager involving the possibly illegal sale of a $4 million house in Doral. Okay.
That's a Tuesday.
There's a lot of meat on this bone. Come on. Or
Tuesday.
Or do you want to hear about some silly, frivolous trademark thing involving Lizzo?
Okay.
You're going to pick the damn Lizzo thing, aren't you?
I love her. That's my Taurus queen.
Ah!
But
Wait, there's a but. There's a but.
But I am feeling a little homesick.
Is that a yes? Do we finally get to tell this story?
Homesick. Please give me your good Channel 7 flash and trash.
Yes.
I mean, you had me at like at like shady Miami illegal property sale.
Oh,
like
thank you.
It's home. That's like a public sub to me. You know what
I
mean?
knew it. I knew I could count on you. We're like this. We go back so far. I knew I could get you with this story.
Too far.
By the way, for those of you who just want to know the trademark thing, the trademark office granted Lizzo the right to register a trademark in 100% That Bitch for clothing. At first, the trademark office rejected it, but then they changed their mind. So now she literally has a exclusive federal claim to being 100% That Bitch. All right.
Ooh, so I can buy some Yiddy with that on it.
Let's talk about Latin trap star Anuel AA. And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but I did watch like 5 YouTube videos where he pronounced it. It's spelled Anuelaa. He is currently locked in a legal battle with his former manager, Fabian Eli. In September, the manager files a lawsuit against Anuel, claiming that Anuel unilaterally terminated their management agreement, their 7-year management agreement. So already, wasn't supposed to expire till 2026, but the manager claims that he's entitled to 10% of Anuel's gross earnings. Anuel then files a countersuit in November, saying, not only did I not violate any agreement, but you, Eli, actually exploited me. You defrauded me out of millions of dollars. Anuel claims that Eli secretly took excess money from secretly took excess money from Anuel's music agreements, stole money that Anuel had set aside for tax payments, and allegedly bought a $4 million house in Doral, along with cars and jewelry using Anuel's money. Now, like real estate's getting expensive, but even, $4 million can get you a lot in Doral.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And the lawsuit also claims that the manager, Eli, allegedly took kickbacks where he would arrange for deals to be done for his client that were bad deals where the client was paying too much, but it's really because he worked out a deal with the person doing the deal with his client and would keep a little bit of that money for himself.
So you've been taking notes.
It's like everything about this is super Miami. The allegations are, again, super Miami. The case is currently ongoing. And I think the lessons from a situation like this, like when people come to me and they're like, how does something like this happen? How do we fix it? How do we not how do I keep this from happening to me? And, it really comes down to two things. One, 7 years is way too long for an artist management deal.
That is.
Nope. Generally, when people ask me how long should a good artist management deal be, I tend to say 0. I say you should be able to leave an artist management deal whenever you like, and the manager should be able to fire you whenever they like. There's no reason that two people should be working together who don't want to work together. Artist managers don't like it when I make that proposal, but that is truly how I feel. Like that particular relationship, Elisa, you've known a bunch of artist managers. The relationship between those two people has to be close. You're working with that person regularly. If it's not working, you can't keep those people together. You can't make it harder to leave a marriage. To leave an artist management deal than you would to leave a marriage. And that's what these contracts do. The second thing is, if you're going to get into a deal like this and money is being exchanged, you need somebody watching the money who is not the manager. A separate business manager, an accountant, a fiduciary who has certain obligations to you, keeping an eye on the money and where the funds flow to keep expenses like this from happening. And, that's an important cautionary tale. Of course, something like this has to happen in Miami, right?
I mean, as they say, this one has a South Florida connection. Every time. Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. Anytime like something horrific happens anywhere in the world, really, if you peel back the layers of the onion enough, there's a South Florida connection. Oh, there is a South Florida connection.
Inevitable.
Absolutely.
It's really it's our chief import, really, is South Florida connections to scandals.
It's the epicenter of mess.
All right. Let us take a deep breath. Let us get that Miami sordidness off us. Thank you so much for letting me finally tell the story.
Of course. I had to do it.
Much appreciated. Let's take a quick break, and then we got Alan Jenkins and Gongalan joining us. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking out Break the Business.
Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here, joined by Elisa Rockdock. Elisa, I forgot to mention with respect to the Grammys.
Oh.
I don't know if you heard this, but a lot of people were criticizing the Harry Styles performance with the rotating stage, saying it was a little slow, a little plodding.
I heard some things.
Did you
about
hear
that.
some things about maybe that the
It
stage
wasn't
actually
going
rotated
the
in the
right
different
way.
direction?
Mhm.
Can
I
you
feel-
imagine?
I feel so bad because in general, I don't think that I would be able to pull off that choreography, but shout out to if this is true, because like I don't know if it's like officially been confirmed or not. Being able to basically do the reverse choreography and adjust literally in a live spot to a rotating platform, rotating in the opposite direction than you expected. Holy mackerel. Yeah, no wonder he almost ate it.
Yeah, I was about to say, it might serve to explain how he nearly face planted when he
Oh
got
my
off of said
gosh.
rotating stage.
What a
All
nightmare.
right. We got two very distinguished guests joining us on the program this week. The first is an acclaimed social justice leader and professor at Harvard Law School, and the second is an artist and New York Times bestselling author. Our guests recently collaborated on 1/6, a 4-issue graphic novel that imagines an alternate reality where the January 6th attacks on the Capitol succeeded. 1/6 was supported by a successful Kickstarter campaign, and it's available now on Amazon. We are happy to welcome Alan Jenkins and Gon Galan on Break the Business. Hello to you both.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Now, even as I say this, am I saying the title right? Do you say 1/6 or are we supposed to say January 6th because it's a date?
It's 1/6. You got it.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank God. That would have been,
and
I was so afraid of getting off on the wrong foot with you guys.
No, you're good. And there's a reason, because we think that 1/6 should be as important in our national consciousness as 9/11.
Mm.
And so it was Gon actually who lobbied for the title 1/6.
Right on. Well, Gon, let me ask you this question first, okay? An acclaimed visual artist like you and a Harvard law professor like Professor Jenkins would seem an unusual pairing to collaborate on a speculative fiction graphic novel. But this is actually the second such project you two have worked on together. How did you two initially get connected to start doing projects like these?
Yeah, we've actually been friends for a long time, but I knew about Alan professionally. He was the founder and leader of the Opportunity Agenda, which was just a premier social justice messaging organization that really helped us think and talk more deeply about key issues that were happening in this country. And he also understood that culture creators of all kinds were really important, and invited me to like one of the greatest gatherings of my life of artists, musicians from all over the country to talk about how our work was really important for moving the national conversation on many issues. And then I got to know him and his work, and we started to discover that there was this sort of underlying love for comics, and we shared this sort of geek, part of our personality. We'd see each other at Comic-Cons and things like that. And we just realized that there was a lot of points of connection, not just in terms of what we cared about, but the kind of culture and media that we wanted to see in the world. And then when Alan approached me with this premise for this comic book, I said yes on the spot, because it's just such a great idea. And I was just really excited to work with Alan and all the incredible skills he brings as a creator, and not just, Harvard law professor and just, top-notch communicator.
So, Alan, you were the original proposer of a graphic novel. So why a graphic novel, Professor, as your choice of medium to tell this story? You're a law professor. Why a graphic novel as opposed to a plodding scholarly article that no one will read?
Yeah, well, there you go, right? First, Ryan, I have to say, AI Overlord Tip of the Week theme music rocks. Really
Wow.
I don't know who wrote that or who performed it, but it was amazing. And the Chat GPT response was terrifying. So I just got to put that out there. So, but to answer your question, short answer is I love comic books. I love our democracy. I really felt like and feel like our democracy is at risk, and it's still at risk. And a comic book seemed like a good way to reach a lot of people who might not be reading the 360-page, January 6th committee report, or glued to television watching the committee hearings, but who love pop culture and love comic books and might be reached with a really interesting, entertaining story. So that was why the first idea I had actually was not a report, not an article, law review article, but a graphic novel.
And I know you both have spoken in the past about how this work is just kind of the latest in a long tradition of comic books being used to fight evils like white supremacy and fascism. Can you talk about sort of how your work fits into that larger trend?
Yeah, there's always this thing going around like, oh, culture's becoming so woke, or comic books are becoming so woke, and that just completely ignores the amazing history of comics, having been political and really all, taking the side of oppressed people in this country all over the world. And it goes back to the very beginning. You can start with Superman, Siegel and Schuster. He was a working people's hero during the Great Depression. He was punching out landlords and corrupt factory owners, and the list just goes on and on. And then he famously fought against the KKK in the 1950s. And that tradition continues with Captain America, famously punching out, Adolf Hitler. And keep in mind, that was before the U.S. had even entered into the war. And there was a very active Nazi party in the United States. So it wasn't so clear, what we were going to do in that moment. And comic book artists and storytellers were stepping out in front of the issues and saying, we need to take a clear stand, and we're going to use these heroes to do that. The history goes on. There's just been incredible comics about Martin Luther King and the Montgomery bus boycotts. That was a comic book that was translated into many languages all over the world and found its hands into activists who were in Egypt during the Arab Spring. So comic books even were teaching people about these movements from one country to another. They just became this great medium to help educate people about the history of, rising up against oppression. That continues in the present day. You had Mouse about the Holocaust, just a really stunning graphic novel. You had Persepolis about, the Iranian Revolution and everything that people endured there. And then you even have like modern stuff that's really great. La Boriqueña is a Puerto Rican superhero, that was created after Hurricane Maria, and it's illustrated by none other than our artistic partner in this, Will Rosado, who really helped bring the story to life. But it's a long, proud tradition, and for us to be considered to be part of that is just an honor. So we're really happy to talk about real issues through a comic book.
Well, Elisa, I feel like they're playing right to your wheelhouse now as a pop culture academic, a literal doctor of this subject matter, and somebody who I'm sure is so sick of people being like, why does all of this pop culture today so woke and talking about social issues as if they have no sense of history about like what Star Wars was or what Star Trek was or what Superman was?
It's like all art is political. If you have the capability to say, why is this being political? Then that means that you are in a privileged position to be able to ask that question. So like everything an artist does is political. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. That's a Rush song. I am such a huge fan personally of interdisciplinarity and like a mixed methods approach, not just in sort of like gathering research, but I wish that more people applied a mixed methods approach in like the presentation of material. So opting more for, the graphic novel, a lot of folks are opting for the YouTube video, but, having to sort of cut through the noise of all of the other options that are out there vis-a-vis YouTube and everything. But having different methods within pop culture to talk about these very, very important issues, I'm 1,000% a huge fan of. I'm the kind of person who'll be like, write me a sociological paper about a piece of popular culture, and you don't think you'll be able to talk about things like deviance and structure and all of that stuff, but like no, it's literally everywhere. So I'm eating this up with a spoon.
And Elisa, to your point about mixed methods, I mean, this too is mixed. So it's a comic book. We're partnering with the Western State Center, a nonprofit organization out on the West Coast, to do an education and action guide. So if people read this, they're scared or angry or just motivated to do something or to learn more, they're going to be able to do that for free and access that. If libraries or colleges or civic groups want to do a teach-in or talk about these issues, they're going to have a vehicle for doing that. So, and I have research assistants who are doing the fact-checking to make sure that the real-life elements that are underneath this story are rigorously accurate. So absolutely, that interdisciplinarity is crucial to getting it right.
Let's go back now to the making of this project. Both of you, this is actually our second guest group in a row that was able to make a project happen through the work of a successful Kickstarter campaign. And we've seen a lot of indie creators come through this show and use that platform to great success, bringing something new into the world. Alan, can either of you talk a little bit about that experience and what it was like to set up that campaign?
Yeah, I can start. And, I should say, full disclosure, we raised a lot of money, of which the Kickstarter was one part, but a crucial part. And the Kickstarter, we really have oriented towards getting the book out for free to lots and lots of folks, schools, libraries, organizations, and the like. And excuse me, we are really pleased with how backers stepped up. People were really excited about it and continue to be excited and are messaging us, so the digital version came out and is out on Amazon. The print version will be out in a few weeks. And so we keep hearing from them about, hey, when's this thing coming? One other thing I would say, just in terms of a tip, I don't know if I'm as good as the AI bots on this, but we promoted the book, and I think without that we would not have reached and exceeded our goal. So it was not enough just to kind of put a challenge up there and say, hey, we're here. We pitched the story to news operations around January 6th of 2023. We have a social media presence, and so all those things went hand in hand.
Wow. And that's what we often hear, that the successful Kickstarter campaigns aren't just make a good video and put it out there and hope people will find it. The launch is really just part of a much longer campaign where you have to get out there, you have to promote it. Our guest who we had on last week, Jeremy Facknitz, who raised a great deal of money on his Kickstarter, said it was retail politics. He actually was reaching out to people one at a time, asking them for money, as opposed to even just tweeting things out. It was that one-on-one approach, literally shaking a person's hand to get them to make that donation, which made the difference. And it sounds like you all had a similar experience. You had to get out there and actually promote it to get the numbers that you wanted to get.
Absolutely. And, two other things. One is made a mistake, which was we picked January 6th as the end of the campaign. And on Kickstarter, you can't actually change the date once the campaign starts. And we soon realized that we could have collected more money if we had gone beyond that date. So that's just something for folks to be aware of. And, the second thing is, people were excited about the cause and concerned also about our democracy, about white supremacy and disinformation. And so a lot of people contributed because they were excited about why we were doing this. And not only because they wanted a comic book, because the comic book's cheap. The comic book, costs the digital version's $2.99 and the print version's going to be $3.99. So they weren't contributing so that they could get a comic book at the end, although they're going to. They wanted to see this get out and reach people who might not otherwise be engaged on this issue.
I'd like to ask you both this question one at a time in this regard. For the people out there who, as you noted, Professor, are worried, a book like this speaks to their worries, because the book, this book 1/6, isn't just an act of speculation for the sake of speculation. We're not just saying what if for the sake of saying what if. This book is a warning. It is telling people what can happen if we are not vigilant about protecting our democracy. And this may not be the first, this may not be the last time that we experience something like that. So for the people whose thoughts are provoked about this whole experience and are wondering what we do to prevent this, did the course of either of your collective expertise or writing this book give you any insights on what we need to do to prevent something like this from happening again? We can start with you, Professor.
Sure, and please call me Alan. Yeah, the answer is absolutely. I mean, we had the privilege to talk to a lot of experts, people who study authoritarian governments and coups in other parts of the world, and our own history here in the United States. And so on the one hand, people will have access to the Education and Action Guide, which will kind of encapsulate all of this advice. But part of it is about being careful consumers of information, making sure that just that Facebook link that somebody sends you, you're actually assessing, is this reliable? Is it from an accurate source? Is it actually information that's been researched, or is it just clickbait that's designed to inflame? And we know that the Facebook algorithms are intentionally geared towards inflaming our emotions, not informing us. Some of it is about holding our government accountable. We have, there are 179 people who were elected or reelected to office in the midterms who are election deniers, who either voted against certifying the election, members of Congress who voted against certifying the election for Joe Biden, despite his full and fair victory, or they're people who have otherwise denied the election. And some of those people are in charge of elections. And so we need to hold those people accountable. That's a matter of registering to vote and voting, asking tough questions, going to your elected officials' office or their town halls and asking them, hey, what are you doing to strengthen our democracy? And for those electeds who are actually trying to tear it down, we saw some of them in action in the State of the Union yesterday, actually calling them out and organizing against them. And, for example, running to be, or volunteering, I should say, to be an election worker, to make sure that the vote is protected, running to be an elected official. So there's a range of things, from learning more and consuming reliable information to teaching your kids to treat everyone with dignity and respect, and to recognize our equality, to actually getting involved in the political process.
Gon, same question for you, and I know Alan gave us a lot
always
there.
Difficult to follow
Shouldn't have let the Harvard guy go first. Those people can be a little loquacious.
Yeah, but there's so much to say about this, and we will have an action guide that's part of the comic, as Alan mentioned. But elections clearly matter, and it's more than just and democracy. Protecting our democracy is a lot more than just voting. That is the absolute least you can do. You certainly should do that, but it's all these other things that that protect our democracy and keep it existing, but also keep it vital and thriving. And we should just keep in mind, that the Stop the Steal rally, as it was called on January 6th, was a blatant attempt to steal the election. That's what it was. And it was called Stop the Steal to cover up the fact that that's what the goal was, both by physical force, the attack on the Capitol to stop the certification of the ballots, and also, use violence to intimidate the vice president into certifying an illegal certification of the votes, which he did not agree to, as well as all the behind the scenes machinations, pointing that Trump was directly involved in, pointing the fake electors and all of these things. It was all an attempt to steal the election. And our whole system was really put to the test. It narrowly survived, but this is not the end. And this will definitely not be the last attempt. And the insurrection really hasn't dissipated, and we may be even closer to another more successful attempt. And so all the things that Alan said really demand our vigilance and our participation way beyond voting. Sign up to be an election observer, help people get through the to the polls, make sure they don't feel intimidated and dissuaded, make sure those polling places are available to everyone. And, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg, but it's really about, this is a moment in history where we're all being called to do a lot more than the minimum if our democracy is going to survive.
It is, as frightened and as concerned as I am to kind of, you know, hear the warnings that you all are providing, which are certainly feelings I share. I'm also like, I feel just a sense of excitement just from how much I enjoy hearing the two of you talk about working together. You know, we rarely get to have two guests on the show, and it's great when they collaborate on a project and you can still kind of feel the energy of how much they clearly enjoyed working together. Elisa, like this is really neat. So yeah. I'm just curious, Gon, is there going to be a trilogy to your graphic novels with Alan? Like, is there going to be a third project that we might see someday?
It's certainly possible. I mean, we created an imprint. This is something we can talk about as well, is like we have gone a fully independent route up to this point to get this out. We felt that was really important for a number of reasons, for reasons of timing. You know, our book had a date in the title. We certainly had to get it out to audiences by then. And that meant circumventing a lot of the traditional publishing structure in order to get that done. And also, you know, maintaining the independence of our voice and our vision for this project. And so we created an imprint for the sake of getting this comic book out, but there certainly might be more. And yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Alan. We have a lot of fun, despite the horror of a lot of the subject matter we deal with. So that's really helpful. But the comic itself, this is only issue number 1. There's going to be 4 issues coming out. So yeah, there's a lot more opportunities, you know, for us to continue the work, but also the story is really going to unfold over the next 3 issues, where we go deeper into, you know, the first issue actually starts after this breach of our timeline where the insurrection has succeeded. We're in this alternative world already. Issue 2, we're going to go back before it all happened and show how we got here. And a lot of that is going to be recounting the factual events leading up to January 6th. We do have a research team that Alan has brought on board from Harvard to make sure that the factual piece, even though this is speculative fiction, the factual piece is really grounded in what happened and is absolutely bulletproof. So yeah, so stay tuned. There's a lot more to come.
Our guests have been Gon Golan, New York Times bestselling author, and Alan Jenkins, professor at Harvard Law School. They've recently collaborated on 1/6, the first of a 4-issue graphic novel that imagines an alternate history where the January 6th attacks succeeded. And even though it is a work of fiction, the warnings in it are very, very real for all of us. Gentlemen, this has been thought-provoking and just a really exciting conversation from both of you. Before we let you go, I'd like to get one last piece of advice from each of you for our creators out there. We'll start with you, Gon. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, stick with your vision, number 1. You know, find an amazing collaborator that you enjoy working with. And those 2 things by themselves will get you through a lot. But we have more opportunities now than ever before to produce things independently. Certainly, you know, with book publishing, comic book publishing. So really look at those options and, you know, assemble your own team, assemble your own army of artists and collaborators. That's like making a band, basically, that you want to go through this process with. And then think about your audience, who it is you really want to reach and be communicating with, and where are they? Like, what listservs, what spaces online are they inhabiting? And become a part of those communities. And then build your sort of own lists, either personally or your own you know, credibility within those communities, so that when you have something to show them, you know, they know it's coming from someone who really understands where they're coming from. And Alan and I are lucky enough to be part of communities like that, but we've leaned very heavily on them for the promotion of the book.
All right, same question for you, Alan. Any tips for the creators out there to help move their careers forward?
Yeah, I mean, building on what Gon said, I would say always ask, right? Ask your community. I'm going to ask your viewers and listeners, go to 16comics.org, ONESIX, comics.org, sign up, go to Amazon, buy the book. We, you know, asked the Kickstarter community to support and back our outreach strategy, and they said yes. We asked lots of experts on the insurrection. Would they talk to us? We asked reporters, political reporters, with, kind of timidly, hey, would you talk to us about this? They said, yeah, it was like therapy actually for them. So, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be a pest, but don't be afraid to ask people to support your vision in a manageable way, because we've really been overwhelmed and humbled by how many people have stepped up to assist us in this effort.
Thank you both. Really terrific insight. We really appreciate you both coming on the show. Don't be a stranger. We really love your perspective. We'd love to have you on again real soon.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for having us. This is great.
Hey.
Gon Galan and Alan Jenkins, everybody. Elisa, I feel equal parts
So cool.
excited and also terrified, which bears resemblance to pretty much every time I've ever interacted with a law professor. So
Poor thing. Just like getting flashbacks.
It absolutely. I mean, and especially when he's like, he's like, oh, you don't call me professor, call me out. I'm like, I don't know if I can. You're asking a lot out of me.
You got in trouble with a professor.
I know. That's still been out of law school 10 years. I'm still getting scolded by law professors.
Still sweating.
Oh, but powerful stuff. I mean, just quite an experience, huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm as always a huge proponent of interdisciplinary methods for expressing these kinds of speculative fiction type deals. Do it in music, do it with your art. Don't think that something has to be this like ivory tower thing in order to make a serious impact. It may actually have a better impact if it's not.
And I think to the point that people often make where, people will talk about pop culture today and be like, why is pop culture so woke? And they forget that like it's always been woke.
It's always been woke.
Part of me is like saddened that they don't realize that, but part of me is also happy because doesn't that kind of mean that it worked? Like back in 1940 when Superman is punching Hitler, like today we all say, yeah, that's not controversial. Superman should punch Hitler. Back then it was a little more controversial. So the fact that like now we look back and it doesn't seem that spicy means that it worked to some extent. And maybe someday the people will look back on what we are doing today and think it's similarly uncontroversial, which hopefully would be a good outcome.
That's like one of the weird things about progress is that change has to occur. You got a bitch.
My thanks to you, Elisa. Our thanks to Alan Jenkins and Gon Galan. Thanks to producer Lauren. And thanks to all of you, viewers and listeners, for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.